Hello, dear ones. Welcome back to the Crystal Earth podcast. My name is Monet Noctaris, and I'm your host. This is a space that bridges planetary updates with the human heart, with a little bit of galactic in there as well. So welcome. Thank you for joining me for season 1 of this podcast. Today, I want to give you guys a little bit of a tour of who I am, what my backstory is, and how it impacts what's happening on this planet right now. I'm going to try really hard to not be overwhelming with technical details because there's just a lot of them. I could do about 20 TED Talks on 20 different topics when it comes to grid mechanics, ancient Earth, galactic history, you name it. But I'm going to try to stay on topic today and talk about the heart of what this project has been for me and how I got roped into it. Because when I went into this field, I had no idea, literally no idea of where it was headed and what my role was. So now that I'm on the other side of it, it's like hindsight is 2020. And I would love to just be able to give a chance to kind of tell you what this has been for me and why I'm talking about this at all. Since there's a lot of noise out there, and I don't want to just contribute to the noise. My hope is to be kind of a steady anchor in times where it feels like things are falling apart. But they're really falling apart so that they can be put back together correctly and in a new way that is for the good of all. So that's what I stand for. Always will be. So don't mind me. It's dinner time around here. I'm not this like pristine priestess lady. I'm pretty normal. I'm enjoying my Aperol spritz while I record this while my dinner is in the oven. I live a normal-ish life. I kind of have a double life. It's been that way for a while, especially the past year has felt like a real double life. I am a mom. I have 2 amazing, incredible kids who I'm so grateful chose me to be their mom. This road hasn't always been easy. I have had a platform in the spirituality space since 2021, really. I'll give you kind of my background of like what my life was like in the early days, I guess, and what then happened that kind of took my life on a totally unexpected path that now has culminated in who I am today and what function I provide in the planetary field. So with that, here's what I got for you. I was a normal-ish kid growing up. It's funny, I actually just got a text from my dad. He randomly he sends me photos randomly of like just pictures, time capsules, and he sent me some pictures of me from when I was little, and I was like, man, I had no idea what I was in for in this lifetime. I sort of did, but I didn't quite, there's no way to grasp it until very recently. I was a very, very sensitive little child. And like many of you out here, you may relate to some of this. So what I didn't know about myself was that I was a crystalline human. My understanding, what I've been told, there are kind of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of humans incarnated right now into this current planetary arc who have encoded functions for Crystal Earth, for what we are building now. And so now that I know all of this, I'm able to spot crystal people really easily. It doesn't mean that we like crystals. I mean, obviously I love crystals. You see behind me, it's just a part of my collection. I do have an affinity for them. But it's not like we're crystal collectors. One moment, my daughter is calling me. Let me take this. Hey, sweetheart. Where was I? Oh, yeah, crystal people. So it doesn't mean that we love crystals, though you might. What it means is that we are programmed into the new operating system of the grid and what comes next. And a lot of us carry really interesting and unique blueprints for the future of Earth. Okay. So I didn't know that about myself. I had no clue. There was no context for that. I was really lucky to grow up in a household that encouraged my uniqueness and with supportive parents because growing up was really hard. It was a hard journey for me because I just never felt like I fit in to the point of like really deep existential loneliness from a very, very young age. I remember I it was hard. It was rough. I remember just feeling when I was maybe like 7, feeling like the weight of the world was on my shoulders. I didn't know why. I couldn't explain to you why, but it just felt like I was so concerned about how people treated each other. And I was so just disturbed by the amount of cruelty on this planet. I couldn't understand it. Couldn't understand how people could be mean to each other, to the earth, to the creatures on this earth. I couldn't, I didn't get it. And I felt like the only person that felt that way. And so it was really isolating. I also struggled with a lot of different, like undiagnosed neurodivergence. I now see it as it not pathology, actually, that I was really carefully and thoughtfully designed with love. But I was designed for the new earth, not the version that I grew up in. And so you'll see that with crystalline beings all across the world. We might not quite fit the criteria for autism, but are suspected to be on the spectrum or like have ADHD, especially women and feminine presenting people. Like we really flew under the radar and got lost. So a lot of us really drowned in silence under many different learning challenges because our brains are wired differently. And so that was really hard for me. So like, for example, school was unbearable for me, completely unbearable for me. Hated it. And I just always kind of felt like I was constantly drowning. And that continued throughout all my life. I was really lucky that I could find some places where I could route my brilliance, which was in the arts, music, singing. I actually got a degree in music somehow. I spent most of college numbing out and binge drinking and stuff because I couldn't cope. Couldn't cope. It was all too much. But somehow made it through there. My aim was to be a professional opera singer. I've had actually a long career in music, which has been really cool. It never became a primary focus, but it's always something that adds to my life, and I still sing as well. And you just might hear me kind of break into toning during these episodes here because that's part of my function now is through music and tone. So I ended up kind of having like a traditional life for a little bit. I actually got a career in out of college in at a tech startup, and that was actually a really interesting experience. I ended up then in biotech. That was not really the best use of my brain, I would say. I had some issues with the ethics and I didn't enjoy it. And then I ended up getting pregnant with my daughter, and I had her, and that experience was life changing for me in the best way. It showed me how much power I had, and it was a really, really, really beautiful experience. I ended up becoming a birth doula, and I enjoyed doing that for a few years, though it was really, really taxing on my body and on my family. And so, you're basically on call all the time because babies usually come in the middle of the night and you just have to leave and you don't know when you're coming back. So, um, yeah, that was rough. So I ended up transitioning into coaching. I became a life coach. And throughout all of this, I was kind of going through my own healing journey and personal development, learning a lot more about myself, why I was the way I was. I didn't have the full picture, the context, but I was healing along the way. And I realized at one point that coaching felt just really dry for me. And I knew there was something more I was supposed to be doing. I couldn't quite put my finger on it until I realized I started actually kind of listening to the guidance that was coming through me. And I realized I was supposed to be a healer. That's just kind of what one day I was just like, it just hit me. I was like, I'm supposed to be a healer and I'm going to find a modality. I don't know what it is that I can integrate into my practice that I already had that was established. So I ended up getting into past life regression and quantum healing, which was really, really interesting for me. That's where things got kind of weird. When I say kind of weird, like pretty weird. Not in a bad way, just in a like, oh, there's something else going on behind the scenes here that I'm supposed to be doing. But what is it? So my background in spirituality, I'm very, very lucky. I had a really beautiful introduction to spirituality very young, where I went to kind of like is a non-sectarian church that was founded by a Hindu yogi who came to America to help spread meditation across the West in a very balanced way. So it was kind of like integrating all different sects of religion in a way that was universal and not like exclusive. So that was really, really beautiful. I learned how to meditate when I was 6. It was like a bunch of little kids meditating in Sunday school and singing. And it was just a great experience. And I carry that with me now. And so when I ended up in the healing space and this new age spirituality space, I felt really out of place. I felt like severely out of place there. Not in a way that was like, I didn't feel like an imposter or anything. It wasn't like that. It was more like, I didn't resonate with what a lot of the people like in the space were saying. It just didn't land with me. And I ended up kind of feeling like, okay, what do I do with this? Even though I grew up with new age spirituality being normalized, it felt very polarized. And I didn't love that. I ended up, so, when I got into past life regression, quantum healing, so here's where things really shifted and my new platform was born. So I had my own hypnosis session for the first time. I'd always been interested in past life regression. I always kind of wondered like what would come up. For me, what came up was like it was overwhelming to say the least. It turned my life on its head. My first session, I recalled a past life from a totally different star system where I was a being that held a big planetary responsibility, and it was about this war that had happened on that planet. If you're familiar with galactic history, which I don't know if you like, who's familiar with galactic history? Some people are, I guess. But it was the Lyra Draconian War. And I kind of recalled a bunch of memories from. And so I didn't know, I didn't have the context when I got the memories. But when they came through, it was so emotional and it was just heartbreaking of what happened to my planet at that time. And so it just flipped my understanding of who I am and why I'm here on its head. And I kind of got this like inner knowing that I couldn't explain, but I like knew it was important that like this was where I was supposed to put my energy. I needed to understand more about who I was, what was going on in a greater planetary and galactic sense. And also I needed to find the others. Didn't know why, but I knew that there were other people like me and I knew it was important. So I kind of shifted my platform, and that's where the Starseed Awakening podcast was born. That was where I began to kind of gather these people that started to come towards me. This is where things got really, really weird, really interesting. So my business kind of exploded overnight once I shifted gears into this. because I realized this was the weird part was that I realized that people were being sent to me for a reason. And we all kind of had these common threads of like ancient Earth, these different civilizations like Lemuria and Atlantis and Egypt. And I began to understand that, this other guide came through to me who her name is Markara. She is kind of my primary point person, you might say, in what I would call my oversoul. And everybody seemed to know her. Clients would come to me and would remember me from early Earth times when the Earth project was happening here and when we were like building pyramids and working with the grid and things like that. And I was like, there's something going on here because everybody remembers the same thing and describes it the same way. And it kind of became this big puzzle that I started putting together. And I was gathering the people. And so then eventually what happened was I ended up forming a group. And this group, we call ourselves the Earthkeepers. It started out as an apprenticeship. That's not what it evolved into. But we became the front line for like ground control for what is going on now on the planet, which is this big planetary shift that has happened. Earth's operating system has already been rebooted. We've already overridden the old grid, the old parameters of the grid. And now we're in the new grid and the new operating system. So everything's kind of catching up and we're not completely done with the sequence. But that's when I realized like this isn't just a business or anything like that. Like this is actually a mission, like a mission. From there, that kind of marks like about a year ago was when that mission kind of went into full swing and that became my full-time gig was, first it was discovery of like, what is this? And then it moved into the active phase and began working really openly with off-planet intelligences, the Crystalline councils, various different leagues of beings that were helping to protect the mission and make sure it happens. And I became the primary point person for that. It wasn't easy. I will save the drama of the mission for another time. Don't know when, but it was really, really challenging for me, but it pushed me into so much growth and helped me become who I am today, which is why they call me the Black Rose. What I have become, I'm kind of skipping over a lot of details, but what I have become is a tuning fork of the planet. That's my function. And it's not hierarchy. It's not that I'm better than anybody, nothing like that. That's how I was encoded. And that's just what I came here for. I've worked on previous attempts in other cycles to override the old fragmented, distorted grid in other lifetimes. And that's how these people knew me, who kept finding me. And they would find me the way that I even met my group and all of the clients I worked with, which was many, many clients. They found me because they would end up like, they would have a dream and they would hear my name and then they would like Google me. Or they would hear like Lemuria, like an ancient Earth civilization. Then they Google that and then that would lead them to my podcast. Or they'd be listening to another podcast and then mine would autoplay. It's just weird stuff that you couldn't dismiss. And we all these threads together of working on this in other lifetimes. So if you found this, there is a possibility that you're directly involved in the override and in this process now, which is the new Earth, the crystalline Earth, which is restoring Gaia's crystalline song. I think what I want to leave off with today is, I guess this is a way to directly experience my field. So if you would like to, you can go ahead and you don't have to do anything fancy, just kind of relax and get into your body. I might do a little toning. I'll move my mic a little bit and just invite you to experience feeling into Gaia. Here's why. I guess I should explain why before we get into this. So part of my function is I'm Gaia's mirror. Gaia as the planetary consciousness of Earth the living planetary consciousness of Earth. I hold the embodiment of her tone as a tuning fork. So if you think about how an orchestra, they play an A, somebody plays an A at the beginning, and then everybody plays the same note so that everybody's on key and in tune. That's like my function within the grid as a human node. I guess I should also mention part of my function and who I am is I'm Gaia's heart field. I embody Gaia's crystalline heart. And so right now I'm just going to invite you to tune in to that. It's like playing the A, in the orchestra so that you can just feel into it. You don't have to do anything perfect. All you have to do is just listen and allow yourself to drop in to your body. So I'm just going to move this a little bit. Here we go. See what wants to come through me here. Okay. So go ahead and just, so you can put your feet, put this here for a sec. Put your feet on the floor if you can. You don't have to. Just imagine tuning into your heart. Drop into your body. Gaia's crystalline heart field is alive. It's beating for the first time in tens of thousands of years. It's beating. It's alive. And you're invited to step into that field. So you can place your hand on your heart if you want. Imagine the golden cord flowing from your heart all the way down into the earth, connecting to Gaia's heart, or crystalline heart. Just take a slow, deep breath. Now, all you need to do, you don't have to do anything. You're already loved. The earth already loves you. You are love. And your heart beats in time with Gaia's heart. And anytime the world feels too heavy, everything feels too chaotic, you feel pulled out of your body and you want to escape, just invite you to come back to this feeling, this presence. Remember that your heart beats in time with Gaia. She's here for you and she loves you and is holding you in her heart as one of her children. And I invite you to just stay in that presence for just a moment. And with that, I think this podcast is complete. I don't know if that helped answer any of your, I don't know that you had questions, but if you had questions, I don't know that it answered any, but that's the cliff notes of who I am, what I'm here to do. Jumped over a lot. I'll save the technical specs for another day and the drama for another day. But I hope that being in my field helped you feel a little bit of peace while the world feels chaotic around you. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. I have more to come. So I love you. Goodbye.